Segovia is a city in the autonomous region of Castile and León, Spain. It is the capital of Segovia Province. Etymology: the name of Segovia is of Celtiberian origin. The first inhabitants named the city Segovia. This name comes from two terms of the Celtiberian language of the Celtic branch of Indo-European. The term Sego means victory, and the suffix briga would mean city or strength, so the name might be translated as city of the victory or victorious city. Under the Romans and Arabs, the city was called Segovia and Sicubia respectively. Geography. Location: Segovia is located on the plains of Old Castile, near Valladolid and the Spanish capital, Madrid. Segovia is one of 9 provinces that make up the autonomous region of Castile and León. Burgos and Valladolid lie to the north, Avila to the west, Madrid to the south, and Soria to the east. The altitude of the province varies from 750 meters in the extreme northwest to a maximum of 2,430 meters at Penlara Peak in the Sierra de Guadarrama. The town lies on the main route of the Camino de Santiago de Madrid. Climate: the climate is continental Mediterranean, cold and dry, resulting from the high altitude and the distance from the coast. The average annual temperature is 12.42 degrees Celsius, with a minimum in December of -14 degrees Celsius and maximum in August of 39 degrees Celsius. The annual precipitation range from 400 to 500 millimeters per year in the lower plains, and can reach up to 800 millimeters right in the mountain area of Sierra de Guadarrama, as rainfalls and snowfalls are more frequent, and decent showers coming from summer thunderstorms help the mountain area of the province to be rainier than average for the entire central Spain area. All of this make the province a damp corner in the context of the region. The predominant forms of vegetation in the mountainous areas include pine, evergreen, oak, beech and juniper. Population centers. Aside from the main city, there are a number of other villages within the municipality of Segovia: Fuentemolanos, Hontoria, Madrona, Revenja, established in 1983 as a minor local entity, a category of sub-municipal entities in Spain; Zamarramala, Torredondo, Perogordo. History. The first recorded mention of a settlement in what is today Segovia was a Celtic possession. Control later passed into the hands of the Romans. The city is a possible site of the battle in 75 BCE where Quintus Caecilius Metellus Pius was victorious over the Quintus Sertorius and Herculius. Herculius died in the fighting. During the Roman period, the settlement belonged to one of numerous contemporary Latin convents. It is believed that the city was abandoned after the Islamic invasion of Spain centuries later. After the conquest of Delgado by Alfonso VI of León and Castile, the son of King Alfonso VI, Segovia was resettled with Christians from the north of the Iberian Peninsula and beyond the Pyrenees, providing it with a significant sphere of influence whose boundaries crossed the Sierra de Guadarrama and the Tagus. Segovia's position on trading routes made it an important center of trade in wool and textiles. The end of the Middle Ages saw something of a golden age for Segovia, with a growing Jewish population and the creation of a foundation for a powerful cloth industry. Several splendid works of Gothic architecture were also completed during this period. Notably, Isabella I was proclaimed Queen of Castile in the Church of San Miguel de Segovia on December 13, 1474. Like most Castilian textile centers, Segovia joined the revolt of the Comuneros under the command of Juan Bravo. Despite the defeat of the communities, the city's resultant economic boom continued into the 16th century, its population rising to 27,000 in 1594. Then, as well as almost all the cities of Castile, Segovia entered a period of decline. Only a century later, in 1694, the population had been reduced to only 8,000 inhabitants. In the early 18th century, Segovia attempted to revitalize its textile industry, with little success. In the second half of the century, Charles III made another attempt to revive the region's commerce. It took the form of the Royal Segovian Wool Manufacturing Company. However, the lack of competitiveness of production caused the Crown withdraw its sponsorship in 1779. In 1764, the Royal School of Artillery, the first military academy in Spain, was opened. This academy remains present in the city today. In 1808, Segovia was sacked by French troops during the War of Independence. During the First Carlist War, troops under the command of Don Carlos unsuccessfully attacked the city. During the 19th and first half of the 20th century, Segovia experienced a demographic recovery that was the result of relative economic stability. Demographics. The population growth experienced during the 19th century accelerated steadily, beginning around 1920 to 16,013 inhabitants that year, 33,360 in 1960, 53,237 in 1981. Since the 1980s, growth has slowed markedly, 55,586 in 2004 and 56,047 in 2007. Heritage. World Heritage City. In 1985, the old city of Segovia and its aqueduct were declared World Heritage Sites by UNESCO. The old city contains a multitude of historic buildings, both civil and religious, including a large number of buildings of Jewish origin, notably within the Old Jewish Quarter. One of the most historically important Jewish sites is the Jewish cemetery, El Pinarillo. Among the most important monuments in the city are the Aqueduct of Segovia, located in Plaza de los Orgullo, is the defining historical feature of the city, dating from the late 1st or early 2nd century CE. Like a number of other aqueducts in Spain, Segovia's Roman-built aqueduct received attention for being one of the extraordinary engineering accomplishments existing in the country, wrote Alejandro Lapunzina in reference guides to national architecture of Spain. It is still used to deliver drinking water. The Aqueduct of Segovia is, because of its long span, architectural beauty, uncharacteristic slenderness, and dramatic presence in the center of a dense urban fabric, the most impressive Roman structure in Spain, and one of the most famous among the numerous aqueducts built by the Romans throughout the vast empire, Lapunzina wrote. It consists of about 25,000 granite blocks held together without any mortar, and spans 818 meters with more than 170 arches, the highest being 29 meters high. The Alcazar of Segovia, the royal palace built on a stone peninsula between the rivers Eresma and Clamas, is documented for the first time in 1122. Although it may have existed earlier, it was one of the favored residences of the kings of Castile, built in the transition from Romanesque architecture to Gothic and Mudéjar. The building is structured around 2 courtyards and has 2 towers, and a keep. It was a favorite residence of Alfonso X the Wise and Henry IV, and Isabella the Catholic was crowned Queen of Castile in Segovia's Plaza Mayor. Devastated by a fire in 1862, it was later rebuilt. It now houses the General Militar de Segovia Archive and Museum of the Royal School of Artillery, managed by the Board of the Alcazar. The Segovia Cathedral, the last Gothic cathedral built in Spain, It is considered a masterpiece of Basque Castilian Gothic architecture and is known as the Lady of Cathedrals. Juan Gilda Hontanon, Rodrigo Gilda Hontanon, and other masters of Spanish architecture worked on the construction. It was consecrated in 1768 and is 105 meters long, 50 meters wide and 33 meters high in the nave, has 18 chapels and has 3 doors: El Perdón, San Frutos and San Geriteo. The walls of Segovia existed when Alfonso VI of León and Castile retook the city from the Arabs. Alfonso had them enlarged, and also increased its perimeter to 3 kilometers, with 8 towers, 5 gates, and several doors. It was built mainly of granite blocks but also reused gravestones from the old Roman necropolis. The wall encircles the historic quarter and currently has 3 gates: San Cibrián, Santiago, built in the Mudéjar style, and San André, gateway to the Jewish quarter, and the breaches of Consuelo, San Juan, the sun, and the moon. Religious architecture, churches and chapels. The city maintains an important collection of Romanesque churches of both stone and brick, which include the churches of San Esteban, San Millán, San Martin, La Santísima Trinidad, San André, San Clemente, Santos Justo y Pastor, La Vera Cruz, and San Salvador. The old main synagogue is a former synagogue, converted into a convent after the expulsion of the Jews from Spain in 1492. Monasteries and convents. The city of Segovia preserved also several monasteries and convents with active religious life. The monastery of St. Mary of Parral with the cloistered monks of the Order of St. Jerome. The monastery of the Humble Incarnation with the cloistered nuns of the Order of St. Augustine. The monastery of the Immaculate Conception with the cloistered Conceptionist nuns. The monastery of San Vicente el Real with the cloistered nuns of the Cistercian order. The monastery of San Antonio el Real with the Poor Clare sisters of the Order of St. Clare. The convent of St. John of the Cross with the Discalced Carmelite friars. The convent of St. Joseph with the cloistered Discalced Carmelite nuns. The convent of Corpus Christi with the Poor Clare sisters of the Order of St. Clare. The convent of Santo Domingo el Real with the cloistered nuns of the Dominican order. The convent of St. John of God with the Franciscan sisters of the Third Order of St. Francis. Civil architecture. The Ayala Berganza Castilian palace dates from the late 15th century. Due to a multiple murder that happened in the late 19th century, is known by Segovia as the House of the Crime. Casa del Cielo on San Francisco Street. Casa Museo del Torreón de la Zoya in the Plaza de San Martin. Casa del Siglo XV, House of the Count al Puente, the Casa de los Picosum and others in the Cal Real. La Taberna Ruby, the oldest tavern in the city. The Casa de la Moneda, the oldest industrial building in Europe. Urban sculpture. Urban sculpture in Segovia stars works depicting illustrious figures linked to the city, which wanted to pay tribute in this way, but we can also find several pictures of a religious nature. One of the most iconic sculptures of the Loba Capitolina sits in front of the aqueduct. A copy of the Capitoline wolf is preserved in the Capitoline Museum and was a gift that Rome gave to the city in 1974 during the events of the bimillennial anniversary of the aqueduct. Until a few decades ago, a monument dedicated to the artist Daniel Zuloaga, which was installed in 1924, could be seen in the Plaza de la Merced, but it was relocated to the Plaza de Colmenares. Currently located in the center of the Plaza de la Merced, looking towards the Church of San André, is a bust of the poet Rubén Darío, sculptor Santiago de Santiago, which was donated by the Nicaragua government to the city in 1973. Letters related to the bust are also found in the Promenade Lounge. The famous poet José Rodas was first installed in 1927 in the Plaza of the Gardens, and moved to its present site in 1960 by the Segovian sculptor Aniceto Marinas. It could not miss this literary group. A tribute to Antonio Machado, poet Segovia made his refuge from 1919 to 1932. The sculpture, as it could be otherwise, is located in the garden of his home museum, and was done by Emiliano Barral. Religious figures such as Domingo de Soto, Pius XII, Saint Anthony Mary Claret, St. John of the Cross have the place within the city. Urban sculpture, the first work of Ortega and the rest of José María García Moro, sculptor Prosperous Segovia, who must also be a monument to the youth located in the Plaza del Conde Chest. Other teachers who also paid tribute to his work. A few peasants have been both recognized in any street at Town Square, as is the case for Aniceto Marinas, who dedicated a monument in 1943. His friend and partner Mariano Benlayor, in the Field of Arms, found the monument to Daoiz and Vilad. Aniceto Marinas' work, by the same author as the list of people associated with the Comunero Juan Bravo sculpture, made in 1921 and located in the heart of the city in the Square of the Sarians. The name given to two statues that top the stairs and representing these mythological beings, made by Francisco Belva in 1852. Other sculptures in the city are devoted to medical. André Laguna, made by the Segovian Florentino Trapero and Marina, located in Plaza de los Huertos. The bust of Lope de la Cal Martin, president of the provincial council that made Emiliano Barral, and can be seen in the square of San Facundo at the monument El Favoreto, by Toribio Garcia de Andre in the early 20th century. In addition to this series of monuments and sculptures are hidden in the corners of the city some other religious images that are worth mentioning. The most significant of these is the Virgin of the Aqueduct, located in the central niche of the monument, has since the Plaza de los Orgullos, and it was already in the 16th century. As remember Colmenares in his History of Segovia, the cast of virgins are also members of the Fuencilla in Vilad Street, the Los Remedios in front of San Juan Gate, the Socorro at the San André Gate del Carmen on the street of its own name, among others. Parks and gardens. The Alcazar Gardens was built in the plaza where the old cathedral and the episcopal palace existed before, and was created on the occasion of the marriage of Philip II to Anne of Austria in 1750, removing the ruins that still existed. This, however, was not fully realized until the visit of Ferdinand VI in the 19th century. Between 1816 and 1817 the first trees were planted, and enclosed with the fence that currently exists. They were destroyed by the fire suffered by the palace in 1862, and recovered again in 1882. The Garden of La Merced was the first public garden carried out by the city within the city walls, and currently is one of the best and most beautiful city, named after the former Mercy convent that was located in the same place and began performing in the middle 19th century with the planting of trees and installation of a source, later replaced by the current, more broadened stately playground available. Paseo del Salón is one of the oldest gardens in the city, since it was created in 1786 by the Economic Society of Friends of the Country of Segovia, and 2 years later they began planting trees. In 1846 he set up various sources and replanted again in different species. Jardinillos of San Roque, situated along the so-called Paseo Nuevo, were opened to the public in 1872, but 10 years before a public fountain was placed in them. In 1943 they were the place where stood a pavilion dedicated to the Feria de Mustres. The building still stands and is one of the characteristic features of the gardens. Missionaries. The Garden of Los Canuelos. The Gardens of Los Huertos are named for the orchards occupied at Premonstratensian Friary, after the removal of the convent in 1836 with the first disentailment laws. The city claimed ownership of the land, a fact that occurred in 1897. In 1901 he began planting trees and structuring of the gardens, which has gradually been restored today. Alameda de l'Eresma, Alameda de la Fuensala. Fromca's Garden. Garden of la Plaza del Conde al Puente. Garden of la Plaza de Colmenares. Garden of St. Augustine. Parque de la Albura. Parque de la Dehesa. Pinarillo de la Cuesta de los Hoyos. Clamas Valley. Economy. The economy of Segovia revolves around metallurgy, agriculture, furniture, construction and, particularly, tourism. The town itself plays host to thousands of day visitors from Madrid each year due to its popular attractions. Education. The city of Segovia is home to a large number of primary schools and secondary schools, the oldest of which having been officially declared of cultural interest. A high proportion of the student population attends state primary and secondary schools, while private schooling in Segovia is mostly religious in nature. Regarding higher education, Segovia's premier institution is IE University, a business-oriented undergraduate university, building upon Instituto Empresas' successful MBA program at Madrid-based IE Business School. Also present is the Segovia campus of the University of Valladolid, offering entrance into careers in computer engineering, law, journalism, advertising and teaching. Culture. Museums. Gastronomic Museum of Segovia. Museum of Segovia. Museum of Contemporary Art Esteban Vicente. Museum of the Bishop's Palace. Museum del Pasado. Museum of the Cathedral. Museum Zuloaga. House Museum of Antonio Machado. Museum of the Rodera Robles Foundation. Museum of Witchcraft. Museum of Arms. Museum of the Walls of Segovia. Jewish Center. MUCES. MUCES is the Spanish acronym to the City of Segovia Festival of European Cinema, an annual film festival which takes place in the city since 2006, usually in November. It gives the wider public a chance to get to know quality European cinema and, above all, it offers the general public an opportunity to see European films which have not yet been commercially screened in Spain, but have been very successful with critics and audiences in their own countries. My Cat Lives in Segovia is one of the films presented to the audience. Festivities San Lorenzo. It is the feast of one of the most popular neighborhoods in the city. Fairs and festivals of San Juan and San Pedro. These feasts are the most famous feasts of the city and have been held since the 15th century. San Frutos, patron saint of Segovia. At mid-morning the carol of San Frutos is sung in the cathedral, after which there are often various activities in the Plaza Mayor, as a proclamation, a concert by the band of the Segovian Musical Union, mycology exhibition, etc. In recent years, following the established tradition of drawn traditions of the sleeve, Segovia's pastry chefs have invented a dessert of the saint. On the last night to San Frutos the Segovian congregate at the image of the saint who is at the door of the cathedral to see him turning the page of the book that she holds. Virgin of the Fuensala, patrons of Segovia. The biggest celebration day takes place during the last Sunday of the month, 2 Thursdays before the Virgin up from his sanctuary in the Alameda of the Fuensala to the cathedral to start the novena. During the 9 days following celebrates the novena in the cathedral, which is sung the hymn of the Fuensala, and the last Sunday in the Virgin returned to her shrine. Since the Virgin is Captain General of Artillery from the September 24, 1916, en route from the Cathedral Shrine and is accompanied by Cadets Artillery Academy and the band. In its trip between the sanctuary to the cathedral is accompanied by the cadets to Plaza de los Orgullo, where they sing a salve. Until a few years had exhibitions in Castilian jotas in the Alameda de Fuensalida in the arrival of the Virgin, but recently Castilian jotas are danced in the Orgullo own. Holy Week. Segovia has 10 fraternities, which are Oración en el Huerto, Resurrección del Señor, Cristo con la Cruz a Cuestas, Santo Cristo de la Cruz, Santo Cristo de San Marcos, Soledad al Pie de la Cruz, Nuestra Señora de la Piedad, Real Cofradía de la Santa Esclavitud, Feligresía de San André, Soledad Dolorosa, Famous People, Don Abraham Sr. Coronel, Juan Bravo, Pedro Delgado, Nicomedes Garcia, Andre Laguna, Candido Lopez, Aniceto Marinas, Manuel Perez Brunicardi, Cayetano Redondo Acena, Florentino Trapero, Benjamin Yola Tercera, Victor Barrio. Twin towns, sister cities. Segovia is twinned with Edinburgh, United Kingdom, since 1985. Tours, France, since 1972. Gangdong-gu, Seoul, South Korea.